Welcome to the Successful Nonprofits Podcast. I'm your host, Dolph Goldenberg. Friends, in our episode today, Dr. Tiffany E. Slater and I are going to be talking about a great topic. People suck, and it's our fault. I'll also share with you that she and I came up with that topic together. And if you are feeling frustrated with some team members who you hired, or even maybe you didn't hire them, but you supervised them, today's guest says that frustration as managers and leaders is our fault. And honestly, I tend to agree with Dr. Tiffany. Dr. Tiffany E. Slater is the CEO and Senior Human Resources Consultant for HR TailorMade, the human resources HR solution for small nonprofits. HR TailorMade partners with small organizations to provide virtual HR support, i.e. fractional HR support for their team. Dr. Tiffany has been an HR professional for over 25 years with experience in all aspects of human resources. What that means is she's got experience in union and non-union shops. And education, we're talking K through 12, property management, manufacturing, casino industries, just to name a few. Dr. Tiffany holds a PhD in organizational development and a master's in human resources management. She also is a SHRM Senior Certified Professional, a certified John Maxwell coach, a Myers-Briggs facilitator, and a True Colors trainer. She is an in-demand speaker and has recently spoken at Black Innovation Alliance Sustainability Summit, as well as the Goal Digger Annual Retreat. So we are incredibly fortunate to have Dr. Tiffany with us today. Hey, Dr. Tiffany, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
I am so thrilled that you are here. And I figure I'm just going to start with our episode title. Dr. Tiffany, why do people suck and why is it our fault?
So many reasons why people suck and it's our fault, Dolph. So just to get us started, I have had so many situations as an HR person where an individual will come to me, a boss, a leader will come to me and say that this person is not working out or they're not doing this, the way that I told them to do it. And my question always is, well, how do we know that they know how to do it the right way? Did you train them? And the answer may be, well, they went through orientation that one day 57 months ago. So people suck because we don't train them appropriately. We don't give them time to really learn how to do what it is that we want them to do. We don't give them the proper guidelines or instructions. We may tell them very broadly what it is that we want them to do, but we're not really clear about it. For example, one of the things that I've started doing with my team, and I've encouraged them to ask me for it if I don't, is to give them the definition of done. And what I mean by that is I read this in a book, and I can't remember what book it is.
So real quick, I'm going to jump in. It's Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell, the DOD, definition of done. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, absolutely. It was a really, really good book. But essentially, the definition of done is being very clear. One of the examples is when you ask someone to buy you a clock. Is it done when the clock is shipped, or is it done when the clock is hanging on the wall? Those are very different expectations. And as leaders, we fail to give the very detailed information that people need to be successful.
I could not agree with you more. And I also hear you saying, which I could not agree with more as well, that it starts at onboarding and orientation of new employees. And you initially said maybe the person had orientation, it was 57 months ago. This is where I'm going to push back. I think at the vast majority of nonprofits, there really is not an orientation or onboarding. There might be a checklist. Okay, here's your employee manual. Wait, have you filled out your W-4 and do we have you register for payroll? But there's no actual onboarding of this is how we operate as an organization and here's how you do your job.
Absolutely. One of the things that we do for our clients is we develop a 30, 60, 90-day plan. We take the job description, we look at the job description and we say, okay, if I were to do this job, I would need to be trained on all of these things. I would need to meet all of these people. So our 30, 60, 90-day plan is a combination of the people that that person may need to meet and for what purpose, training so that they know how to do all of the different aspects of their jobs, getting access to their technology and knowing how to use it. All of that is in a 30, 60, 90-day plan. And so for some people, that's intimidating because that 90 days is orientation. It's not 1 hour sitting around a conference room table completing medical insurance forms.
Agreed. I'll share with you. We at Successful Nonprofits, we're currently in week 4 of onboarding a new executive assistant. And you heard that right. We are in week 4. Before she started, literally almost a week before she started, and we're an all remote organization, a MacBook was shipped to her with her login credentials, with every account that she would need. So her Office 365 account, her password vault account. We use the time tracking software. Everything is preloaded on the computer and everything is in her password vault account. But we also did not stop there. And I'll share with you something else we got out of Buy Back Your Time. And I've been using this, for 3 years, actually 4+ years now, is I often do onboarding by video where whoever has been doing it, I'll just ask them, hey, will you please make videos of everything you do? And then I ask the new person to watch the video and make their own playbook. And I'll say, like, definition of done. I'm really prescriptive about what the playbook looks like. Make their own playbook and their own checklist. And that way it also becomes self-directed. If someone needs 8 more hours to learn how to do a task than somebody else, that's okay. You manage your own time. You learn at your own pace.
Yes, yes, I love that. We do the same thing to a degree. We create Loom videos for just about everything that we do. And we have a Google site that we've made, which is kind of our intranet. And each one of our clients has their own page. The clients don't access it, but it's for us. So if I need to jump over and help another client, I can just go to their Google page in our site and find the SOP for that thing and do it. So yes, that is so helpful for individuals. And it's amazing how this has always been possible. And it's just recently become popular.
Absolutely. And I also say I'm familiar with Loom and I like Loom. Friends, if you're listening and you're thinking, oh, one more subscription, I have to go get a Loom subscription. If you already have a Zoom subscription, Zoom has just launched Clips. Oh my gosh, Clips is changing my life. So now I can very quickly and easily make a clip. I can email it to anyone. It works just like Loom. It feels pretty clear to me that Zoom saw Loom in the rearview mirror and said, okay, we need to be careful.
Yeah, that's a great tip. I wasn't aware of that. So I will definitely be making a switch. And we actually have a free Loom account. So that's another option as well. As you add people to your Loom account, you get additional, videos that you can make. So this is not about doing an advertisement for Loom or Zoom,
Yeah.
but it is definitely a great tool
Yeah.
to have in our arsenal.
Yeah. I'll also share with you one of the things that and by the way, Dr. Tiffany, I don't know if you've ever had these moments where you're doing something and suddenly you realize, oh my gosh, I've been doing this wrong for years.
Mhm.
Why have I caused myself heartache for years? I had this realization 2 interims ago. So I was leading as an interim executive director. I was leading an organization. We had about 55 or 60 staff. And if you have 55 or 60 staff, you typically have 1 to 3 new people starting almost every month. Not every month of the year. August is slow, but 7 or 8 months out of the year, you have 2 to 3 maybe new people starting. And so I had this realization. I was like, oh my gosh, what we need to do is, I will also say we were staffing up. So it's like, what we need to do is make a decision that we are only going to onboard people. We are only going to start people's onboarding one very specific day each month. And so that would give us pressure to hire people and get them ready to be started by that day in the month. But what that meant was we then did cohort-based onboarding for the general organization onboarding, which by the way took 3 days. So before you even went to your program, or if you're in administration, before you went into admin, the admin office, you started off with 3 days of general onboarding where you learned about the organization, you learned about our policies, our procedures. We actually had 3 or 4 different facilities. So, there was half a day when you got in a van with your cohort and you toured all of our facilities so you could see everything. It was, and only then, at the end of those 3 days, did people go to their program where they also had their own structured onboarding. What a game changer it was for this organization.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I've never had an orientation that was that long, but I absolutely see the value of it. One of the things that happens is because our organizations are so small nonprofits and small businesses, they're so small, they're desperate to get that help. And so as soon as that person is able to start, they want to throw them into work, not thinking about the repercussions, because a week from now, that person is going to be frustrated because perhaps they don't know what to do. Maybe you'll get lucky and get someone who loves learning that way. I'm one of those people. I love learning that way. But most people aren't, because they get frustrated and they really want someone to take time with them and explain things to them. And they need to know the why behind a lot of things. And if you're not there to help guide me through it, then you're not there to tell me the why. And so I don't understand the larger connection to the organization. It just feels like I'm doing a lot of tasks.
Absolutely. I think so often as leaders, and again, let me be clear, I've been guilty of this. I think so often as leaders, we think to ourselves, well, the person's been a case manager somewhere else, or the person's been a housing navigator somewhere else, or the person's been a development director somewhere else, but they've never been a housing navigator or a case manager or development director with us. And so they don't yet know how to do the job the way we do those jobs in our organization. And I do think that that's really where we fall short.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other reason, there's so many reasons why we suck as leaders, but why people suck and it's our fault. Another one is that we don't give feedback. We don't either give enough feedback, we're not honest with our feedback, or we just avoid it altogether. We don't welcome feedback at times either as leaders. So we're afraid to tell people, hey, you're not doing that the right way. And we get frustrated a month later when it's still wrong. It's like, what are you talking about? You never said anything. So, and then we need to create space for people to sit down with us and tell us what they need from us as leaders. We need to create a safe space for them to feel as though they can be honest with us as leaders. Like if you're doing something that drives them absolutely crazy and it's so annoying that it keeps them from being productive, they should be able to tell you that.
Yeah, I'll share with you one of my favorite books, also one of my most gifted books. I feel confident it's one you know about too, is Radical Candor, which is all about really how to speak directly, but also with compassion. And there's a question that Kim Scott gave me in the book that I use almost every month as a leader. And the question is, and I don't use it all the time with the same person because it can get old, but the question is, what one thing could I do or stop doing that would make you even more effective at your job?
Mm, that's a great question.
Yeah. I'll also share with you, and this is one that I love because Kim talks about this. If the person says nothing, they don't trust me yet.
Mm.
And that's not on them. That's on me. Like I've not built the environment where they feel like they can trust me yet.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. And, there are so many people that just believe that they're doing so great. How could they possibly need to do anything differently as a leader? And so there are so many that just won't stop to ask the question. Even if the person would tell them, they don't even stop long enough to just ask the question. So that's one of the things that we need to do a better job of. We need to ask more questions. We need to ask people what they need. We need to ask people how we can better support them. We need to ask people, how can we as an organization be better? A lot of people just don't ask those questions, and we grow as leaders, as organizations, when we trust that the people that are actually doing the work actually may have some great ideas about how we can do better.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me ask you, sometimes as leaders, when we ask that question, what can we do better? We start to feel ourselves get defensive, and we do get a little defensive. Like when someone's really honest and they say, oh, the meetings really drag on. And instead of hour-long meetings, if we could just do 30 minutes, I think that would be enough. As leaders, we start to get defensive. We don't think about all the times that we've been really verbose in meetings. We start to even want to justify ourselves to that person. How do we hold back to receive that feedback? And then what do we do after we receive it?
Yeah. Well, you first have to really want to receive the feedback. I think that that's a very basic requirement. When you ask a question, you've got to be prepared and interested in the response. And so it does take self-control to not become defensive and try to explain why things are done the way that they're done. But we have to, because that's how we get people to trust us. If they give us an answer and we try to explain it away or become defensive, they may not ever give us another answer again to our question of what we can do differently. So we've got to be prepared. And I mean, if that takes you mentally preparing for it, for a whole day before you have that conversation, then that's what needs to happen. But once you get that information and you take it in, and maybe you need to take a deep breath, and you absolutely want to thank them for sharing that information with you, tell them you're going to process and think about it, and you're going to come back to them with some feedback, not about why you did it and why it's going to stay the same way and all of that. No, what you want to do is go back to them and say, hey, I heard you. I appreciate that. And I've thought about ways that we could, for you, from your example, shorten the meeting. And what are your thoughts? Would you like to collaborate with me on that? Maybe that's not a person who is able to collaborate with you on whatever the suggestion was. But if they are, I would certainly ask them. I would certainly involve them in making the change that they suggested. And you also should be a partner in making that change if it is a change that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, I think that person, you should go back to them and say, hey, I thought about it. Here's why this doesn't make sense, but please continue to share your ideas with me, and we'll work together to make things better for you.
You literally just answered my next question, which is going to be, what happens if you think about it and you disagree? And so it is just like, be honest, but be open.
Absolutely. There are decisions that I get to make. There are decisions that we make together, and there are decisions that the team can make. And maybe there are times when we need to identify which one those are. Is this a me, we, or you question?
Dr. Tiffany, I have managed expectations at the beginning of meetings about whether or not a decision would be made and who was responsible for making it. I have never thought about that me, we, or you. I love that matrix. Is this a me, we, or a you question?
Yes, absolutely. Because as a leader, there are just some things that this is going to sound terrible, but that we just don't care about. That's just not, it's not important, right? So you make that decision. I don't care where you order pizzas from for lunch. Just stay in the budget. I don't care. A we decision could be something that impacts the overall team. And maybe I, as the leader, need to approve the budget, but you come forward and say, this is what we thought about. And, so there are some things that require us to kind of draw a line in the sand.
Yeah. So as I pull that entire scenario apart, the budget is the me decision. Okay, we have $125 to do something for staff. What are we going to do? Okay, let's order pizza on Thursday is a we decision. And then what are we going to order is a you decision. Great. You go ahead and order that pizza.
Absolutely. That is a great breakdown, Dolph. Thank you.
Sorry. So sometimes I really need it for me, just really crystal clear like that. I'll also share with you, Dr. Tiffany, one of the growth areas I had in the last 18 months. Again, like, I am at this point 3 decades into my career, and there's still times when I think to myself, how could it have taken me? And by the way, I've been a manager or a leader for 25 of those years. So how could it have taken me this long to realize this? But only recently, about 18 months ago, I realized that if I'm in a meeting and I'm feeling pressure to make a specific decision and not make any decision, but someone or multiple people saying, we want you to choose B, not A or C. My gut reaction is a no. There's something about being pressured that makes me want to just clamp down and go, okay, I don't know why, but this doesn't seem like a good deal. And so how I've started to try to counteract that is at the very beginning of the meeting, I say, I know that we need to make a decision, but I need the grace and the space because I don't make good decisions on the fly. And what's more, I also know I'm likely just to say no if I'm pressed to make a decision. So I ask for that grace and that space, and I commit there will be a decision. I will make that decision by X point. So like if it's Thursday, by Monday, if it's Tuesday, by Friday. And Dr. Tiffany, the change that's made, it's actually allowed me to go back and look at my notes and think about everything and actually honestly make decisions that actually make more people happy as opposed to just seem to keep us on the right course to stay within budget and meet our goals.
You know what's so important about that is the fact that you've learned yourself. And it took you time to get there because, I mean, nobody's perfect, right? It took you time to get there, but you've embraced this is who I am, this is what I need, and this happens if I don't. So, another reason why people suck and it's our fault is because we don't know ourselves well enough. We talk a lot about being authentic, but if you don't know yourself, how can you really be authentic? You're just showing up every day, going through the motions, and you're not really able to step into yourself because you don't know enough about yourself yet as a leader, maybe perhaps as a human being. But it's really important because knowing yourself allows you to tell people what you need and allows you to give yourself the grace and space that you need so that you can be the best leader for them.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's one question I really want to make sure I ask you. I have some friends who are listening who they're almost whispering in my ear right now. They're just invisibly over my shoulder, whispering in my ear. And they're saying, okay, Dolph, you and Dr. Tiffany are talking about how you build your team. But what if I inherited this dysfunctional team? These people suck. Is it my fault too? So I have to ask that question.
That's a great question. That is a great question. And I'm going to say it depends. It depends on how long they suck while you're there. Because at some point you have to take responsibility for the people that are there because they're now your people. So what are you doing to create a situation where they don't suck? Are you having honest conversations with them? Have you made your expectations clear? Because when you inherit a team, you have to reset everything because you don't know what they were told before you got there. And in some cases, it's a whole lot of foolishness. You have to unravel it all to really get to the meat of it. But you have to reset expectations and be very clear about what it is that you expect. And you also have to make clear for them what your standards are, because all standards are not equal. If you expect for your reports to be delivered at 12 noon on Friday, not just on Friday, but by 12 noon, you need to say that. You need to be very clear. So after you've set the expectations and you've told people what it is that you need from them, when, how, and where, then after that, if they still don't meet the expectations, then it's your fault at that point. Do you need to take them through additional training? Do you need to start communicating with them on a more frequent basis? Maybe the expectations don't fit exactly with the job that they thought they had. So there are some things that you need to do to figure out whether or not this is a good fit. Is it your fault or is it their fault?
Yeah. So let's assume most of our friends who listen are at smaller nonprofits. So let's assume maybe it is, gee, the job description is really not accurate to what we want this person to be doing every day, every week, every month, every year. How do you address that? Because all of those tasks that are actually being done still have to get done.
So when you have a person that is not doing exactly what it is that you want them to do, because the job description doesn't align with your thinking as it relates to this position, then you have to reset. Then you need to develop a job description that is more fitting. You present it to that person and say, hey, this is what the job is now. I understand this is what it was before. I understand you were a masonry before. But right now, I need you to be a chef. And this is what the organization needs. And it's at that point where you establish a new agreement with that person, whether that person is making a decision to be a chef or if they want to continue being a masonry, because that is not what the organization needs. And so you have to decide what you're going to do with that person. Is there another opportunity within the organization where their skills would fit well? Or are they making a decision to leave your organization as a result of not wanting to or being capable of doing the work that you now need them to do?
Yeah. My assumption would also be, though, if we're saying, okay, we need a chef, what you're skilled at as masonry is, we also have to provide the training, coaching, mentoring, and support so you can be a chef. Not just, great, put down the trowel, go wash the cement off your hands and get into the kitchen.
Yes. Absolutely. I think it's really important that we're just really honest with people. And I think that's part of it. There are times when leaders don't give feedback. They don't give honest feedback because they don't want to hurt the person's feelings. But I truly believe that not being honest with people is not being kind. We are kind to them when we're honest with them so that they can make improvement, so that if they decide to leave, they can go on clearly understanding why the last situation did not work.
Yeah, I agree with you. I also think so many people that are in a job that either they're not well suited for or the job is not working for them, they know it. They know it, they feel it. And I'll share with you, I've once in my career, I was in a situation where I was not in the right job and I was not in the right organization. And and I knew it. And I come to work every day knowing it. And it's such a terrible place to be. And I know, especially if the decision to leave is not your own, it can be painful. It also is such a gift to let someone go on and be what they're supposed to be. Like go on and find the mountain that is the right one for them.
Absolutely. There are so many stories of people getting let go from jobs who have gone on to do something completely different that they've never considered before, and they're happy now. At the end of the day, all we can be responsible for is being honest with people, holding people accountable, and supporting their growth.
And it sounds like if we do that, we might think better about the people we work with. And and it won't be our fault because we're going to be working with good people.
Absolutely.
I love that. Well, Dr. Tiffany, I share with you ahead of time. I always want to play two truths and a lie. So are you down for a good old fashioned game of two truths and a lie?
Sure, let's do it. Okay, so I currently have 1,000 emails in my inbox, unread. I am my mother's oldest and my father's youngest, and I have two German shepherds.
Okay. I say all the time I'm not good at this and there are many reasons why I like to play this game. One is it allows me to demonstrate that we can all continue to try to get better at something we're not good at. Two is it's also a good reminder for me that I should always look for evidence. So I'm like, okay, you and I have worked together. Friends, Tiffany was the fractional HR, sorry, Dr. Tiffany was the fractional HR director at an organization where I was the interim executive director, which is why I say she and I have worked together. So I have found you to be far too responsive to have 1,000 unread emails in your inbox. So I am going to guess that that is the lie.
That is not the lie. However, I have several inboxes.
Oh, got it. Okay, got it. Got it. Okay. So what
Yeah.
you're saying is like the socials folder, the promotions
Yeah.
folder, the
So
unsubscribe me
no,
folder.
my
Okay.
personal email is a crazy mess.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Because I'm like, no, you're far too responsive. But okay, see, once again, I got it wrong. But at least I tried to use evidence. Okay. So share with me which of the other two is the lie.
I am allergic to dogs, so I do not have any pets.
See, I could 100% see you having pets, but I guess that would explain that would be a good reason not to have them.
Yes, it is.
Well, Dr. Tiffany, thank you so much for coming on today. I'm glad that you've joined us, and I want to make sure that my friends who are listening have a way to reach out to you. And so, friends, the first thing, I want you to go to hrtailormade.com. And while you are there, you can download your free onboarding support checklist. Remember, we were talking about onboarding. This will be a checklist that will help you onboard people well and onboard people right. You also can access their blogs for workplace support. And Dr. Tiffany has made an incredibly generous offer. She will give any listener who requests one a 30-minute HR strategy session so you can get support with your most pressing employee-related challenges. So again, that's hrtailormade.com, and we've put that link as well as the link to book some time with Dr. Tiffany in our show notes. Pro tip, the show notes are now also on your phone, so you can just scroll down inside this episode and get it right from your phone. Dr. Tiffany, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. This was a great conversation.
All right, friends, if this is an episode that you found valuable, if it got you thinking about how you're going to be doing onboarding, how you're going to be providing more productive feedback, or maybe even some good book recommendations like Radical Candor or Buy Back Your Time, there are 2 other episodes I would like for you to download and listen to. The first is episode 140, Results-Based Employee-Centered with Wayne Slate. The second is episode 247, Timeless Tips for Working with Difficult People with Jodie Foster. And Jodie Foster, by the way, is the author of one of my other favorite books, The Schmuck in My Office. I sometimes refer to it as the schmuck on my board, because you also can use this if you're having an issue with a board member. That, my friends, is our show for this week. I hope that you have gained some insight to help you and your nonprofit thrive. And the lawyers make me say it. Otherwise, I would not do this. Here's your disclaimer. I'm not an accountant nor an attorney, and neither I nor the consulting practice provide tax, legal, or accounting advice. This podcast is for informational purposes only, and you guessed it, should not be relied on for tax, legal, or accounting advice. Please, if that is what you need, find a licensed, qualified professional in your area and get the help you need.